It's time to get the comic book retrospective crew back together. This week, we're talking about Marvel Comics, specifically Thor number 133, the great Stan Lee, the king himself, Jack Kirby. And here with me to talk about that, as always, is comic book editor and writer Joe Corral. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic now that I got you guys back here together. We took a week off. We've also got Eric Breen. He was having technical difficulties. He's doing good now. He's the man so cool they call him the Breed. He's the comic book quarter himself. He's the voice of the voiceless. How you doing, Breed?
I'm doing well.
So we are going to the Wayback Machine, 1966, the original Thor run. It had only been called Thor for a few months at this point. Obviously, it was coming out of more of an anthology book. And this is, for all intents and purposes, the very first real appearance of Ego the Living Planet. He did make an appearance on the very last page of Thor 132, which leads directly into this story. This is titled, Behold, the Living Planet himself. And this thing is absolutely perfect for someone like a Jack Kirby, Eric Bray, because it just accentuates everything great that he does. It's full of creativity, just insane visuals. That wonderful color palette works so well on his art.
And the panels are so intricate and so well designed that Vince Colletta didn't know where to erase, so he didn't.
Exactly.
So what do you think about this, Joe? Obviously, Jack Kirby is very much associated with the cosmic side of the Marvel Comics universe, as well as all the other stuff. But this is really where he shines. Obviously, he went to DC and did his Fourth World stuff. But when you just see this, it's like you're beholding something that's just, it's glorious. You could see this man was so far ahead of his time, it's not even funny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this clearly the work on Thor and Fantastic Four to an extent all informed what he did creating the Fourth World at DC, and then when he came back and did Eternals. Like, all the blueprints are here. And in fact, Ego the Living Planet was only created a few months after Galactus. Galactus had been created earlier in the year, and then you have Ego, and later on Galactus and Ego would have their own kind of war going on, and but you see all the stuff Jack's building up with, sort of cosmic Marvel, and this is some of the bigger stuff here. And we also get, the first appearance was in the previous issue as well of, was it the Rillian controller? That whole thing about, or a recorder rather, where he's recording all the events of this, and you would see that same character return. I think most notably probably would be recording the events of what happened in X-Men with the Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix saga and things like that. He appears throughout. Marvel, you see Recorder again in Dan Jurgens' run because he was a big fan of what Stan and Jack did. So there's a lot of pieces that are built in and around this issue.
Don't forget the Hercules miniseries.
Yes.
He's hanging out with Skippy the Skrull and Hercules in the Recorder.
I'll tell you, the Recorder is a fantastic character in here because he gets to point out so much stuff that you might miss with the eye because you don't really know what you're supposed to be looking for because everything in here is so fantastical. It's completely new to the Marvel comic reader himself. And you have the Recorder kind of pointing out facts and things that you need to know about the world, which I thought was very well executed and very informative to the reader themselves. This is coming off the heels of Thor 131 and 132 leading right into this. And we have this group of characters. They're called the Colonizers. They're from the planet Regal. And one of them has infiltrated Earth. I guess they end up being, in disguise, being Jane Foster's roommate. And then there's, things are happening right here. And Thor ends up on the planet Regal. And he wants them to remove the claim on the planet Earth that the colonizer that there has. And they say, if you go to the Black Galaxy and you handle our problem over there because there's something way worse there, we will remove the claim on Earth and you guys won't be under Dominion, and we'll remove the force field and all that stuff, Braid. So if you get a chance, we're going to talk about 133, but Thor 131, 132 are both fantastic as well.
No, absolutely. And also to make it clear to people, the colonizers, when they take a planet, it looks like it's clamped, like an actual big clamp is over the planet. It's amazing.
Yeah, if you're one of the first people from the planet Regal, you can put in a claim on a planet, and then you get to take it over and have dominion over it. So we arrive right there on that, the very last page of the previous issue. We see Thor and the Recorder arrive in the Black Galaxy, and they see this planet, and we finally get to meet Ego, the living planet Eric Breed, and it turns out he is very powerful. If you've seen him in the movie, there's some similarities to what you're going to see here, as they don't recognize what there are, but then Ego is essentially able to go into Thor's mind, see his memories, and create a world that is much more accommodating to the things that he's used to.
He takes the form of a giant face first, does some humble bragging, or not so humble bragging, and you got Thor going, I don't care that you are a planet with a face. I am Thor. And Recorder's like, dude, this is a planet. He creates a version of himself that's of similar size to deal with him personally. Then he creates, horses for them to ride on while he goes to take them to show him what he's all about. And we're like 3 or 4 pages in, and this is brilliant. I think Fantastic Four and Thor, where Stan and Jack really shined the brightest.
At first, Joe, it seems like he's kind of benevolent. He is bragging, but he doesn't completely seem dangerous like he was made out to be from the people on Regal. But then all of a sudden it becomes quite clear. It turns out Thor's presence there is a very bad thing, because Ego was able to kind of scan him and basically get a blueprint to create these, they call them antibodies, these physical humanoid type characters that he can send out into the galaxy while he remains in the Black Galaxy, so he can essentially take over the entire universe. So this guy's got plans to take over everything.
While he's working on that, we get a brief, 1-page interlude of Jane Foster having to talk with some people that are involved with the High Evolutionary. We got a High Evolutionary name drop. There's a ton of stuff going on, to the point where, Stan even kind of makes it a point to be like, meanwhile, at that very moment, and kind of goes into that just for 1 page. And then we can't stay there much longer because we've got all this other story to tell. And it's just wonderful. But yeah, these antibodies, they look incredible. Just the designs of them, those hexagonal faces and everything. It's really great. And then just seeing how Ego is really getting upset with them, and then them going into the equivalent of what would be a skin pore to get inside the planet. It's just, again, it's wild, imaginative stuff.
Ego kind of turns on it. He's going to flood them out, and they find this. I thought it was a belly button. Apparently it's a skid pore. They jumped out in there, and the Recorder's following him because he's got to record everything that's happening, because he's never seen anything like this before, Breed. And then we see the weird inner workings of Ego, and he's got kind of organs and stuff in there, and they're all kind of coming down on Thor and the Recorder, and we end up getting this enormous army of antibodies. And it's certainly said that these are never ending. He can create as many of these as he wants to.
Yeah, basically this comes down to trying to fight off an infection on a cosmic level. Ego tells him what he's going to do and just assumes that it's all going to fly over Thor's head, not knowing that in his earthly guise he is a learned physician. Yes. So he knows what's going on there. But my favorite part of the story was the full page spread where the battle with the antibodies is in full swing.
Yeah.
And Thor is Thoring it up. He's monologuing, and the Recorder basically just says, it's going to take more than talk. Shut up and fight. Yeah. But he does it very, observation. It will take more than platitudes to stem this deadly tide.
Yeah.
I just thought I love that part.
And don't worry, there's plenty of fatums to go around in this issue if you were concerned about that.
Some wonderful stuff happening here, and then all of a sudden, I guess Ego, he's had enough. They defeated some of the antibodies. He wants to get rid of Thor once and for all, so he can get onto this bigger plane. So he kind of starts collapsing the things within inside of his own, core of his body, and he's kind of trying to destroy him. And at one point, it kind of looks like they do destroy the Reporter itself. But Thor, I guess, has an attachment to this character now. And even the Recorder says, leave me, I'm merely a robot. And he's like, no, and he kind of saves him, and they're able to kind of escape what's going on there.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it really messes up the Colonizers' plan there. She's just about to She's at the police department demanding the keys to Earth, basically, and she does the whole thing where she's like, "Oh no, I'm supposed to. Let me make a call." And the colonizers are like, "No, sorry, we struck a deal, and too bad." They foil her plans to take over Earth.
Yeah, this is why you got to read the issue before, because the scene with her and the cops, and she's like, "Take me to your leader," and they're just like, the guy's going, "Yeah, why do I get all the nuts?" And
yeah, and it's great though. Basically, Ego is just like, all right, well, if these guys, especially Thor, if Thor can just defeat all my antibodies and I can't kill them with increasing the temperature of the planet and all this stuff, then this whole outside of the black galaxy it's too much for me. So you guys get out of here and just leave me alone.
He basically takes his ball and kicks him out of his yard.
Yeah.
After Thor does drop a little bit of lightning on him on his way out there, but
yes.
The Ego Living Planet is not very happy. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe this has happened," but it'll never happen again, because we do know that Ego would return. But this is a fantastic, real first appearance here, Breen, of the character. You do see some of the elements. A lot of people will know him for the movie, but this is one of the weirdest, coolest things that you could ever have in like the Marvel Comics universe. It's just so unique, and it's not surprising that a Jack Kirby would have been at the center of a character like Ego the Living Planet.
Oh, without question. If you look for all-time great runs, we always talk about their time on Fantastic Four. I think Thor gets short shrifted sometimes, but as far as creativity goes, it's wall to wall from basically the early issues of the 100s. Once they got everything kind of figured out through, I think, the early 170s when Jack left to go to DC. But yeah, this Thor got to drop one of my favorite lines. "Be of stout heart." If you read enough Thor, you hear that a lot. The bit with the Tana Nile, I said, basically, it's like, what went wrong? Why don't I get this planet? It's like, I don't know. I said this was just a lot of fun. And Joe, you've read a lot of old Thors too.
Yeah.
I don't recall him ever going full Doctor Strange. The rhyming, whatever it is he's doing there, I don't recall him ever doing that. Do you think Stan might have, for a panel, forgotten what book he was on?
It's very possible, because it's really interesting, because when you read like the really early Thor stuff, he's not even all thous and thys. It takes some time before he gets up to that, and so I think that it might even be less of slipping and more of still figuring out the character, how he wants to write him, because that it does change a bit.
And one other thing that needs to be mentioned is one of the things that the Marvel method did not lend itself to are lengthy epilogues.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go into the last page and that story's still going full bore. 5 panels later, it's wrapped up.
Oh yeah.
So
that's something I've always appreciated about these. Is like I said, it's pillar to post, no wasted panels. And I know, like I said, if you've been brought up on modern comics, these are because we do retrospectives, the next generation down. And Zach is always impressed by how straight through the action always is, because he's used to decompressed storytelling. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it ain't none of that here.
Absolutely not. This thing is pedal to the metal. Really enjoyed this with Joe. Thank you so much for suggesting it. What are we doing next week? You have any idea?
Next week, we're going to go do some Silver Age Wonder Woman. Bob Kanigher, Ross Andrew, issue 120, where she fights a bunch of giants. It's going to be fun.
As you can imagine, this isn't the first time we've actually talked about Thor on a retrospective here. We talked about Thor and the Mangog. This is an absolutely wonderful comic book story, and it features the largest, most insanely big sword you'll ever see in a comic book. It's actually comically big. Very good stuff. Definitely check this one out.